Hey, welcome to My Mama Summer. My name is Aimee Q. Devlin. I'm an unconventional millennial mother living abroad, building a business and raising children while stepping into who she's meant to be. This podcast is an audio version of my newsletter, which you can find at mymamasummer.com. The episodes are short, wholehearted reflections of my life as a mother, business owner, and everyday human committed to being the best she can be. Pop in your headphones, grab a cuppa and a cookie, and take this time to just be with me. Welcome back to My Mama Summer. It's Aimee Devlin here, and I have a very special guest with me today. My husband, Brendan Murphy. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
The reason we're doing this show is because we were having a kitchen conversation that we decided we should bring to the world. Because I found myself enraged this morning after reading a post online that once again was populated by some modern feminists. And it clearly struck a chord with me in a bad way. And I was chewing off Brendan's ear about it as he was making my breakfast. Actually, Brendan, you made my breakfast today. What were you thinking?
It's one of the many insidious forms that patriarchy could take.
Brendan and I have quite a history talking about this topic because it's something that is important to both of us because we see how unhinged the feminist world is. And I'm just going to say unhinged because it is unhinged. So this discussion is based on a post that a friend of mine, who you should definitely follow, Lauren, her Instagram is A Woman Refined. You can find her there. She tagged me in a post yesterday and I finally had some time to read the post today. And it's a post by a guy, his name is Tony Baker. So Tony is a stand-up comedian who I have no idea about. I've never heard of Tony before in my life. But he put up this post and it garnered quite a lot of comments from men sharing what they love about women. There's more than 7,000 comments on this post from men sharing what they love about women. That's not why I'm annoyed. The reason I'm annoyed is because another lady, Sarah Wilson, who is an Australian woman, she's renowned for writing a book called I Quit Sugar, and she's sort of created a name out of herself. She's calls herself a social philosopher. She has a podcast, this type of thing. And so she shared this post on her timeline on Instagram. And she said, beautiful man stuff, truly. Thank you, Tony, for your productive contributions to our torrid online predicament. So it seems like Sarah actually enjoyed the post, as I did. And she has posted a carousel of some of the comments, the ones that stood out the most to her. And these are things like, maybe you should read them out. It would make more sense.
All right, sure. King Thompson, 32, said, it's hard to put into words, but I will try. You ever been cooking and said it's missing something? And then you find it. That is a woman, the missing ingredient that makes everything better. This person said that nurturing thing they do, if you let it rub off on you, you become a kinder, gentler version of yourself. This person said, I asked my 82-year-old dad. He said, you're all just colourful. You bring colour to a place and love to a home. This person said, their intuition, bro, they know. When they sense your sadness, they switch to the comforting. When it's sickness, they start nurturing. When you're on shit, they're on. And when they see your vision, they'll go all in with you and won't stop until you both make it. This person said the way they breathe life into everything. I love how freely and sincerely women compliment each other. Just walking around with my partner, she's getting compliments from strangers and giving them out. It's a lovely thing to witness. Their ability to love through any circumstances, the soft nature they can have to make anyone feel special. My wife is a healer. She heals my soul, heals wounds I didn't even know I had. The next one said, one of my favorite things about women is their emotional intelligence and intuition. They often have a natural ability to read the room, understand unspoken feelings, and offer support in subtle but powerful ways. This empathetic perspective brings balance and insight to relationships and situations. The next one just simply said, their softness. That was Torrey Washington. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I know that guy. This one said, you know, Tony, I think what I appreciate most about women beyond all the surface stuff is their resilience. It's that quiet strength, that unwavering ability to push through life's challenges with grace, even when the weight of the world seems unbearable. Women have this way of seeing the world differently, of nurturing something within it, making it better, even when they themselves are going through storms. That ability to care, to hold things together when everything's falling apart, that's powerful. It's deeper than any moment, man. It's the strength that keeps everything moving forward. This is classic. This is just a quote from his wife, I guess, or girlfriend. Excuse me, he asked for no pickles. Go, girl. Yeah, this guy says, you ever lay down and she rubs your head as you just lay there, witnessing pure intimacy. Like you don't even want to do anything sexual. You really just be laying there vibing on some pure platonic baby energy that wants skin to skin contact. You go from being the protector to feeling protected from the world. That energy is top tier. And this one said, women be mad, low-key strong, mentally and physically. This guy says, for better or worse, when a woman feels something emotionally, she's going to just go for it a lot quicker than a man does. We can be in our own heads so much sometimes, calculating all the possible outcomes of what can go wrong, sometimes to our own detriment. But a woman, even without a plan, sometimes be like, why not? And it's brave and inspiring in a lot of ways. This one said, the way she thinks about me, like ordering me an extra 8 nuggets because she knows the first 8 are just a snack. So Ali comes up to the thread and says, there are so many kings in this section. She put the little teary-eyed emoji there, obviously moved by it. This guy just says, when you tell her you're on your way to see her and she says, yay!
So when I opened my computer this morning and read some of these to Brendan while he was making my breakfast, like the horrible man he is, I started crying as I was reading these out loud to Brendan because I felt seen. I felt like, oh my God, I feel so appreciated by these men for what I am as a woman and the things that I bring to the table. Because a lot of the time in my life, I specifically am seen for building a funnel or writing an email or doing any of these things that are not the things that these men were appreciating in the women that they were sharing about. And so I thought that was so heartwarming and lovely. And then I went to the comments. So this is Sarah Wilson's Instagram page, and it's filled with feminists. And it's interesting because I had remembered that one of the reasons that I unfollowed her quite a long time ago, I used to be in the health world and into the stuff that she was into in her previous iteration of her career. But then she became this sort of social philosopher and, you know, she talks about climate change and a whole bunch of like normie type things that I'm not into. One of which was feminism. And I don't know where she stands on that stuff right now because she shared this post and she was moved by what Tony and the people in his comments shared. So I'm not bagging Sarah, but what I have realized is that her audience is still clearly filled with feminists. Maybe there's one or two that aren't and have said, wow, I really like that post, how sweet. But the rest of the women are very programmed. And they are the kinds of women that I have previously torn down in the writing that I've shared with you in previous episodes. It's interesting, I said to Brendan earlier this morning, having shared quite a lot of my writing about feminism, anti-feminism, over the past few months with you, I was starting to feel like maybe it wasn't as relevant as it was previously when I wrote it, which was back in probably 2017 was the main time when I was writing about this particular topic. And then this post was put in my lap and I realized, oh, these women do still exist. It is very important to keep writing about this and sharing the programming and dismantling it because the comments here are just absolutely mind-blowing. Before we read those comments and start diving into the programming that's in there, do you have anything to share?
I could say a couple of things about my perception of looking at what were ostensibly and apparently some very heartfelt, sincere compliments that these men were giving women or the women they know, and the reaction from the feminists, the way that they took these sincere and innocent, positive, complimentary sentiments and twisted them into negatives. That struck me as kind of tragic and sad and really just... It makes you question the sanity of a lot of people out there, like to take what was such an obviously good thing and innocent and turn it into something that was riddled with, you know, all this projected darkness. I mean, it's so twisted. It's sobering to think that a lot of women that we might encounter out there in the world might actually think like that, see us like that. Like you open a door for somebody, are they going to want to slap you because that's some form of weird inverted patriarchal oppression? I mean, it's insane. It's just ludicrous. But this is the programming that was, you know, that came out of the Frankfurt School and all the sort of postmodernist stuff that's been infiltrating in the university system since the 1960s or 70s. that was the part of it. Is the whole point of it is to divide us, divide and conquer, and have us at each other's throats. It was never to contribute to women's liberation or autonomy or any of that. That was never the point of it. So it's sad to watch that programming to have colonized so many women's minds so deeply that they can't see something for what it is anymore. They turn it into something really dark and diabolical. Sad.
It is sad because I was crying at how beautiful and sweet these comments were. I had tears on the table as I was reading them out to you in the kitchen. And then in the comments, it's almost like, how is this the same thing? How am I reading these comments in this way and you're seeing them in that way? How do those two things coexist? What is in your mind that's not in my mind?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious about how it feels as a man to, let's say you had made a comment on that post and you'd said what you love about me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you saw, which obviously we'll get to the comments and you will see what we're talking about, like the depth of the programming and the craziness in a moment. But how would you feel if you'd have left a beautiful comment there about what you love about women? Like, think about what that might have been in your mind. And then you read these comments. Well, how does that feel to be a man and receive that from women?
It's bizarre, and it's kind of infuriating on one level, because it's like, well, the way they've set the world up in their ideology, the way they look at it, you know, as a guy, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like, you are an abuser, you're evil, you're patriarchy, no matter what, you can't win, you can't do anything right. Even when you do the right thing, it's wrong because of their inverted worldview. I mean, how do you get through to them? Like, it's disturbing to watch. Disappointing is a word, one word for sure. Most men, like, we value any kind of a decent connection, like a decent, healthy connection with women. And then to see women inherit and inhabit an ideology like that actually prevents that from even being possible is disappointing. It's like, well, I can't be friends with someone like that, like a fourth wave feminist, neo-feminist, because they're running all these programs in the back of their mind. At any moment, I might offend them in some way. I might do the wrong thing as interpreted through their ideological lens. I'd be walking on eggshells constantly. So I can't see how we can get along as long as there are women who choose to take on this ridiculous victimhood supporting postmodernist Frankfurt School bullshit.
It's interesting you said you feel like you can't win, and that was something that I noticed inside of the feminist community that I was a part of. I couldn't win as a woman. So
a rational
as a rational woman, I couldn't win. There was no pathway that I could take that had me be able to get through to them. It was like everything I said, it was me having internalized misogyny, or any way you cut the cake, I was a loser. I just couldn't get through. And it's the same for you. That's exactly what you just said, that feeling of you can't change women like that because there's no way in.
No.
This is literally a post of all the things. This is 7,000 things that men love about women that aren't sexual, or what was the other thing? Sexual or...
Based on looks.
7,000 different reasons. And these women only see how oppressed they are.
Yeah.
It's all compliments.
It's all compliments, and it's all really sincere, heartfelt stuff. Nothing to do with sexuality or what women look like, and they turned it into a complete negative.
So let's start with one of these comments then, because it's staring at me from the screen right now, and it's related to this part. Oh, hi, nice dog, says, it's a little sad that we had to add the disclaimer at the start, aside from anything sexual or related to how a woman looks, so men know to view women as people instead of objects of sexual desire before they answer.
Wow.
What saddens me about this is the whole programming that we are the same, like the depths that goes to. These women clearly do not understand how a man works, but they also don't understand or want to know how a man works, because all they want is to be like a man.
And at the same time, to blame men for everything.
Yeah.
Every challenge in their life, everything they don't like about the world is men's fault, but they also want to be recognised as the same as men for some reason. I can't help but spot a contradiction there.
There's a few contradictions in modern feminism. We can't please this woman.
No.
If it didn't say aside from anything sexual or related to how a woman looks, she wouldn't be happy because men would say, oh my God, I just love their boobs. I love the softness of a woman. I love this, I love that. Oh, okay, so we've taken that part away to try and please the women so they, it can't say, oh, but it's all about looks. So we take that part out and now we have to train men to not see women as objects. Okay, so she's beyond help.
Yep.
Gone. Gone. There's a few comments here that I really want to get into. This comment itself has 101 likes, which is disturbing. So let's dive into this comment. It was lovely, but... ... I wish there was a bit of diversity to the answers. It made me think most men think of women as caring, kind, soft, resilient, and gently strong.
How awful.
Oh my God, that would just be awful if we were seen as those things, right?
But she's not done yet.
I just don't understand how that's a bad thing.
Well,
Like one sentence in.
Apparently it's stereotypical female qualities, and she doesn't like that because the next bit.
These are all the traits for low-paid care jobs, which are undervalued by society, and volunteer and unpaid labour as we care for families and community. I would have liked to have seen a man recognise women's wit, intelligence, diverse thinking and problem-solving adaptability. My husband probably would have said I am smart, funny, capable and creative. I guess I was just expecting to see more different responses to reflect the diversity of women. We are not all predominantly caring, kind and keen to fix their wounds.
So rich.
Would you like to start or...?
If she was making an argument, if this was a debate, her argument isn't what it's the logical fallacy of argument from irrelevance. It's just like it goes, she doesn't like the references to caring, soft and resilient because she sees that as stereotyping women or stereotypical female qualities. And then from there she leaps over to a completely irrelevant terrain about low-paid care jobs. And the rest of it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter what she's saying after that. It's like she wants to see the wit and intelligence acknowledged and this kind of thing. Well, maybe it's interesting that there's 7,000 comments and I don't know how many you've gone through, but...
I haven't read 7,000 comments.
Did you see any that talked about wit, intelligence, problem solving? Because maybe there's a reason why, you're asking men what they notice about women, what they focus on, like what is it that stands out to them?
That's the entire point of the post.
That's the whole point of it.
Like, listen, lady. That's what gets me about this is there's 7,000 comments from men, which is a great sample size. If you read those 7,000 comments, you'll understand men to an extent and what they love about women. So if you, rather than making them like different things that they don't want to like, that aren't really about women. So this lady, I find it interesting, she said her husband probably would have said, has she ever asked him? I'd be curious what he would say.
What would he say?
What words is she putting in his mouth? I'm sure he probably does appreciate her kindness, if she is kind, softness, caring, because that's what men appreciate about women, clearly from the thread. Because the two genders are different things.
Right.
Men are problem solvers.
Yeah.
As men, you solve things. So a man isn't going to look at a woman and say, oh my goodness, I love how much she solves my problem. Like, that's not a thing. That's not how it works.
No, that's right.
If you think about the polarity between the sexes, that's not what men are attracted to. They're not looking on their dating profile saying, I'd like a problem solver.
And I find it irritating if
yes.
Not to rag on Aimee, but I have found that, on occasion where if I haven't invited a problem to be solved, like if I'm not, hey, Aimee, can you help me with this? And then if, Aimee takes it upon herself, it might be irritating to me that she's trying to solve a problem that I may not want help with. So, there's also that side of it as well. Like there's a male-female polarity dynamic. It's not just a cliche. The cliches are usually based on reality, and that's why we have these types of stereotypes. Like there's a reason men kept highlighting being caring and kind and soft and making everything better. Like that is what a healthy woman generally does. It's not simply a stereotype. The stereotype comes from experience in the world.
Modern feminism has tried to erase the differences between men and women. And we can see that in the other comments if we go to some of those. Honestly, have I been warped back to the 1950s? This post made me cringe in how the qualities men appreciate most in us, aside from our beauty and sex, is our mothering, nurturing, caring, and softness. Low bar.
Low bar. Wow.
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 That blows my mind. So, what the men are saying is that mothering, nurturing, caring, softness, these capacities that are innate in a woman. I mean, men don't want to be mothered, but they appreciate the mothering tendency because they're looking for a woman who will mother their children in a beautiful way. Men themselves don't want to be mothered. But what the men have said in these comments is that is a high bar. That's the highest bar possible.
That's what we value.
That's what you value and look for, right? That's
Yeah.
what you're saying in these.
Mothering, nurturing, caring, softness. Well, clearly men are not designed for that, to provide those functions. Women obviously are designed for doing that. And it's not saying that they can't do all the other things like be logical and solve problems. That's not what we're saying. And that's not the point of the post either.
Yeah. But how is it a low bar?
Right. Like mothering. Like being a good mother is arguably the most important job in the world. And low bar is the comment that follows. I mean, what are these people thinking? It's wild.
So some responses to that particular comment are, me too, 109%. This post is so gross.
We're handing out A+ for the basics, it would seem.
Wow. They are not the basics.
Well, they're fundamentals, right? They're so important. Well, what a woman provides to her children as a mother is completely different to what a man provides. That's how nature has designed us biologically. So that we're the yin and the yang, and the two combined are what give you the wholeness, the whole picture.
Do you think this woman and the others are so triggered by the fact that mothering, nurturing, caring, softness are so highly valued by men? Do you think they're so triggered by that because they have had that beaten out of them and they've been told that they need to be strong boss babes and go fight on the streets and not care about what men think about them and be fierce and wild and all these kind of like stereotypes that come with, if you think of a modern feminist, I mean...
I think you should pull on that thread because I think you're onto something there for sure. Like, obviously they've bought an ideology that then when they confront reality, there's an incompatibility there and it doesn't work. So they've bought this ideology that they need to, quote, be like men, the men they hate, apparently, but yet they want to be like them. And so they're trying to overcome or squelch the mothering and the nurturing and the softness and the caring and the empathy and the intuition and prove how manly they can be. And then when it turns out that men actually value all of those feminine things, oh, shit. That's probably exactly why they're so triggered. Because they've bought, on some level, the cognitive dissonance is so high, even just unconsciously, they've got to be realizing as they see a post like that they've been lied to, they've been scammed. What they've been sold through feminism and the postmodernist nonsense is not actually serving them. And it's not going to support a healthy male-female dynamic in society in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be sobering. If you've held that programming for so long, that I'm a fierce, strong, independent woman, I don't need a man, I can do everything for myself. If you've held that programming for so long and you've ended up all crusty and dry and you don't have a man supporting you and all of that kind of thing, and then you hear men saying what they actually truly value about women and love, and it's all the things that you've denied in yourself, that has to be incredibly triggering.
It's got to be triggering, yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're just the irrelevance. Like even that, one of the things Sarah Wilson shared was that one I read where when you tell her you're on your way to see her and she says, yay, like how is that on any level anything to do with supposed patriarchy? How is it negative on any level? But the comments are like, oh, it's all about what they think women do for them. No, this guy's just saying he likes it and values it when his woman is happy that he's on his way to see her. That's it. He's not trying to get something. He's not trying to make her bake a pie. It's not like... How are they turning all this into a negative? They're just blotting out the stuff that doesn't support the feminist ideology. Just ignore that. Ignore the fact that this guy just appreciates his woman being happy to see him, because we can't twist that into a negative. We'll just overlook that conveniently. But Sarah posted that screenshot. And yet all the women commenting seem to have overlooked it somehow.
They're too triggered.
They're too triggered. They're just focusing on the stuff that supports their victimhood.
This is an interesting one. Well, it's actually a comment from the same lady. I can see her programming. These following comments are all from the same lady. She says, "It's so stereotypical. We are fierce and strong and creative and quirky. This is all lovely and sweet, but far out is all about what we do for them," in capital letters. It's not all about what we do for men, but I can speak only for me as a woman. I love doing things for you.
Oh.
I love, for instance, since we moved to our new city in San Miguel, I finally started cooking food again. And that's something that I really love. I love cooking. I love making food. I love baking. And one of the things that really lights me up is making something that you love. Like, I love it when I make some food that you really enjoy and you're like, that was fucking awesome. That really lights me up because I'm supporting you in a way, or I don't know what that is inside of me, but I love it. It's like I come alive with that feeling. So I don't understand why women don't want that. Why is that so triggering? Like, why is it bad for me to do something for you? Why should I be ashamed of that? Where's that from?
Right. Internalized misogyny, obviously.
Yes, well, I've been pulled up for that before.
It doesn't make any sense. But like, I would see Aimee as a very healthy, psychologically healthy human, and someone who's done a lot of shadow work and work on herself, personal development, all that stuff, and is just a very healthy expression or embodiment of the feminine female polarity. Like, that is how I see Aimee, as someone who's got her head on straight and understands, she sees the world of the propaganda and the programming and all that stuff, but because of her internal psychological health, she's not liable to become programmed by it or a victim to it. So I see Aimee as a very, very healthy expression of not just a human, but a female. And she embodies those, so-called stereotypical traits and aspects really beautifully. And that's something that I really value. Highly.
Disgust me.
I am. The asshole that I am.
Thank you.
I cannot imagine how difficult it would be. I mean, our relationship would last 5 minutes if you thought like these unhinged neo-feminist types do. I couldn't function with somebody like that. How could you be around someone who has all that victim programming? Like, they're going to be triggered every 30 seconds by something.
Yeah.
And they're constantly perceiving an agenda at play where there is none. That is infuriating. I've experienced that before. It's absolutely maddening.
There's so many threads I could pull on. There's another comment here that I want to dive into. It's by Ducket List. And we were talking a little bit earlier about polarity and the differences in the genders. And what I've noticed over the years is that the more women have either wanted to tear men down, become like them, or hate them, the more that's happened, the more men have had to also become like women, which is what's also creating such imbalance in our society. And, that's a completely different thread we could pull on in another time, is the feminization of men. Mm-hmm. But Ducket List here shares a comment which is even more insane. She says, maybe if men cared and nurtured more so we didn't have to overcompensate, we'd have more time and energy on making money, the ultimate in freedom and independence, whether we like that philosophy or not. She wants it all. She wants men to be caring and nurturing. She wants to make the money too. She wants more time and energy. She wants freedom. She wants independence. But she doesn't want any separateness. She wants to be able to do it all herself. It's the same programming. It's that I'm an independent woman. I get to be all of the things. Yeah. I don't need anyone else in my life. She also says, I wish some of the lovely sentiments shared by these guys mentioned more than just, they're there, we are here to comfort and soothe you. That's what they enjoy. They're saying they love to be nurtured. I don't want to be nurtured and cared for by you. It's kind of gross.
Sorry, I'll stop.
It's feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where does caring or nurturing, where does it go too far? Where does it cross the line?
I need you to be strong and supportive and to be a pillar for me. They're the masculine qualities that I value. Mm-hmm. as a woman. I want to know I can come to you and just be my crazy crying self and know that it doesn't bother you.
Right.
And it doesn't faze you, and you'll just hold me, and you know it's just like a storm that's blowing over, like a day in Melbourne, and you can see ahead and know that it's going to be fine, because that's what women are like. Like, women have emotions more so than men, and you can support me through that, like from a masculine perspective.
Yeah.
Like the pillar. Like, I don't want you to be like mothering me. No, that's wrong. It's like, it feels icky. You're the pillar of strength. And I know that that's something that men struggle with a lot, is that they have to be this pillar of strength all the time as a masculine man. And one of the issues in our society today is that men don't have networks of other men that they get to share how hard that is with each other. And that's why the importance of men's work is really, like, that's why we need more of that. Because men need to share that with other men.
Yeah.
I don't want you to become more feminine and support me and blah, 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 like all of this stuff. That's gross to me. I don't want that. You're perfect. It's like, as you are, doing the man thing. Why do these women want the men to be more feminine? Because they're masculine. It's flipped.
Yes.
It's inverted.
It's been inverted. And she's saying, male or female, we all need to care and nurture, earn and develop. That's the second time she mentions money. And develop for our and the greater good, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting, like, there's threads that would be interesting to pull on if you could, where, like, if men cared and nurtured more, so we didn't have to overcompensate. So it makes me want to go, what's happening in your life, in your relationships, where you feel like there's, like, a lack of care and nurture coming from your male, I don't know, partner or whatever, so that you feel like you're having to, obligated to, quote, overcompensate. Like, what is it you need to sort out in your relationship? Because you're generalizing this to all men. And then she goes on, you know, with the, I wish they said more than just, there, we're here to comfort and soothe you. And that's completely missing the point of what all the blokes were posting. All the men were posting. They didn't even say that. They weren't saying that at all. So that's like an argument, a straw man argument. Like, that's not what was being said. And the question was, what is it that you value, what do you value about women outside of looks and sexuality? And there was all these great comments, really sincere comments, but they've twisted it into, they just think we're here to comfort and soothe them and, like, baby them. Well, that's not what was happening. So it's just bizarre how people who are colonized with this ideology twist and invert things in this way to always consistently, and it's not coincidental that they consistently come back to supporting their own victimhood.
I feel like she is probably a woman who is tired and overwhelmed and is probably a mother, or she's been caring for people in her life. Maybe she has older parents or younger children, or she's been in that role for a long time and doesn't have enough support around her. And therefore, for some reason, that's every man's fault.
Yeah, right.
That seems to be a very, very common thing.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't have the support that I need in my life, and I'm a woman, and these people are telling me that it's all because of men, so I'll take on that programming. She's clearly got the whole strong, independent woman thing, because she's mentioning the earning. She doesn't have a man supporting her in that way.
No.
Otherwise, she wouldn't have that
Right, exactly.
programming. It wouldn't exist.
Because she feels like she's got to do everything herself.
Yeah.
And including make money and be all the things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's clearly, this is the thing, like, people not looking, like, not being introspective and not looking at their own shit and the way they see the world and put the world together and create meaning leads to this type of outward expression. Instead of just going, I've got too much on my plate, I could really use some help or something, adopting an ideology that gives you a perpetrator to blame everything on is so much more convenient than actually dealing with your shit.
And that's the epidemic that we have. That's
Right.
what all of these women are doing in the comments.
100%. Yep. It's like they didn't even read the original post. It was, hey guys, aside from these two things, what do you value? What do you really like about women? 7,000 comments of what guys really like about women. But no, this is all diabolical patriarchy, apparently. This person has taken it as what women do for men. So it's just like one triggered, butthurt, like, feminist victim after another.
This one. Ugh. Sure, soft and nurturing and the emphasis on how we serve and support others, men. But what about intelligence, problem solving, leadership? Men are saying in these comments that is not their top of their list. That's what they're saying. Like,
Yeah.
can you take that on?
Right. Because they get those things from the masculine world. They get leadership in the masculine world. They get problem solving from men. They get a pat on the back and, how you going, mate? And let's have a beer. And, they get intelligence in the world of men as well. So what is it that's provided by women that they don't get? And that's 7,000 comments worth of that. It's like, hello, ladies. This is where, we really are grateful for this, but you're making it bad.
I'd even go as far to say that a masculine man would be repulsed by leadership from a woman.
You try to lead a masculine man is not going to work.
Do you want that? Like, do you want me to do that with you? To lead you all the time? But no, you did what?
No.
You'd be like, fuck off.
Yeah, it's annoying.
So why would men say that? This is what's so interesting, is that the women in these comments just cannot take on what the men are saying to them. And it's funny because these women are usually going around talking about mansplaining, right? Mm-hmm. But that's what she's doing.
Femsplaining.
She's femsplaining, right? She's putting words in men's mouths. Mm-hmm. Instead of asking them what they like about women. She's saying, oh, well, that you should like intelligence, problem solving and leadership. Yes, but they don't.
It's not what we value from women specifically. What is it that what do they provide to our world that helps to balance? What gap, the gaps that we have in us, the guys are saying, this is what we don't get from ourselves. This is what we don't get from our mates. We value this so much when we get it from women. It's amazing. Thank you. It's 7,000 comments of gratitude. Wow.
Taken as 7,000 comments of oppression.
Right. Patriarchy. This is incredible. They are all identifying the free labor they expect from women. What?
So is me messaging you and saying, yay, I'm so excited you're coming over. Is that free labor from me because I've spent 2 seconds writing a text?
Yeah, I guess that's the free labor part. I don't know. You could bill me for it, I suppose. It's weird. It's very bizarre. Talk about imagining shit that's not there.
I also, aside from the fact that a lot of these women are projecting like never before, they're all on this theme of it's about what a woman does for a man, right? That's not what they're actually saying.
No.
However, some men do appreciate it when we do things for men. You like it when I make you dinner, right?
It's amazing. I hate cooking.
I'm not offended by that, right? But why can't these women understand that maybe men like us to do that? Why is that bad? That's what I don't understand.
It's funny because, traditionally, going back millennia, men and women have very clearly defined roles. The Australian originals, you have men's business, you have women's business. The two do not mix. They are separate. Women have their roles, men have their roles. They're not sending out the women to throw spears at kangaroos. That's the man's job because biologically he is better suited to that and more capable. And, you can find all the reasons and things that women are better at. At some point, the elite, the secret society, manipulators, the hidden hand came along and created and funded this victim-laced ideology to pit men and women against each other. And it was all under the guise of, women's liberation. And how many feminists know that women's lib was funded by the Rockefeller family? They don't give a shit about women. It's all about control and manipulation and harvesting more money and profits from the general populace. It's got nothing to do with helping people or freeing them or liberating or whatever. So at some point, someone's injected this belief system into society, and obviously it strikes a chord on some level. It gives some women, a framework for interpreting their experience in the world. I feel bad about this because men. I feel dissatisfied about this because patriarchy. But there is no actual, in first world countries especially, the idea that patriarchy exists is ludicrous. It doesn't exist. It's completely imaginary. There are pockets of the world, countries that are really still in the sort of Middle Ages where they really do actually have a patriarchal structure. But they're not New Zealand, Australia, Canada, America, England, whatever. It's there's a couple of Arab countries that are like that, very oppressive. But, just on the facts, you've read a bunch of books by authors who have destroyed this stuff in minute detail, showing that patriarchy simply is a fantasy. It doesn't exist, but it's a convenient lie for, I guess, a lot of people who are not necessarily very self-aware or politically aware. It plays to people's blind spots and hooks them with something that makes them feel better about their like dissatisfaction or their wounding, and justifies it and goes, here's the person to blame. Oh, just all men, by the way, not just all of them. Yes, those evil bastards. I mean, it's so absurd, but it's working, like, because it appeals to the people who are not introspectively inclined or critically psychologically inclined. Like you're someone who looks at yourself in the mirror and goes, what can I do to improve how I'm functioning in the world? What can I work on here? Any healthy person should do that. Any healthy person should look at themselves in the mirror and go, where am I like dropping the ball? What am I not doing properly? Where am I doing a shit job of being human or being a dad or being a mum or whatever, and do something about it? But what the ideology of feminism is doing, the current mutation of it, is supporting people in not being accountable, not taking responsibility for their lives, not taking responsibility for their emotions and their thoughts, and blaming it on somebody else, the convenient scapegoat. It just happens to be men in this instance.
What's even more disturbing from looking at this post is when I look at the profiles of the women who are commenting, is that they're not what I would pinpoint as stereotypical third wave feminists who if I'm writing an article or doing a video and I'm type feminist in, I usually type angry feminist, and the stock stuff that comes up is people with blue hair or they look like men and like they're angry, and that's my stereotypical viewpoint of the triggered feminist, right? Yeah. But when you look at these women, they look, quote, normal. And so that's even more insidious for me, is like the programming is just so widespread now that even mothers, wives, people who are kind of, going about life in normal way, it's like not extreme anymore. It's almost in the middle, this point.
It's been normalized like that, hasn't it?
And I think a lot of these women would see themselves as highly educated and doing well and that type of person, but they don't have the internal compass, the self-reflection, to see the programming that they're walking around with.
Right. It's very similar to exoteric Christianity and the way that encourages people or discourages people from being introspective and being accountable as unique individuals for their actions, their beliefs, their behaviors, their feelings, their thoughts. It gives you an out because you just follow the framework, you follow the formula as outlined in the ideology, and it's just ticking boxes. You don't have to actually do any real inner work. You don't have to introspect. You don't have to develop yourself. It's a complete out for that. It's an anti-psychological endeavor. And you're right. And the thing, it's so insidious because now the woke agenda has become so debased, deranged, immoral, unhinged, that these feminists who are like the ones we're talking about and highlighting, they look relatively sane and normal compared to the fringes of the woke movement in general. Feminism is part of the woke tapestry. It's just one little thread in the tapestry. And compared to like the disgusting heterosexual movement and the sexualization of children and all this other stuff that's going on, bringing transvestites into kids' classrooms and all this stuff that is completely ridiculous, off the charts, inappropriate. Now these unhinged fourth wave feminists start to look kind of reasonable and sane by comparison. So it kind of indirectly legitimizes their worldview and the way that they're operating. But unfortunately, it's not helping anybody. All it's doing is driving a wedge between men and women where there didn't used to be one. Now we've got one. And it's manufactured. And how with all these highly, like you say, they're highly educated women, like most of them have gone to university, college, whatever, and in conventional terms are highly educated, very knowledgeable, intelligent people, of course could never be fooled by any kind of propaganda or insidious programs. But all those university courses have come about through this agenda. It's an intentional agenda. And it's got nothing to do with equality or the liberating anyone. It's none of that. It never was the intention. So if they actually knew where their education came from and who funded it and created all that ideology and nonsense, they probably wouldn't feel so pleased about it.
One of the things that, you mentioned religion there. It's the same thing as feminism in relation to how many contradictions inside of the program.
Okay.
And we briefly spoke about this in the kitchen earlier. In these comments, there's an attachment to what women are doing for men.
Mm.
But what's not touched on is the fact that men do a lot for women.
Right.
and how great that is for us. Like, I love it when you open a jar for me that I can't open. Or pick up a heavy pot that I can't do it, that I can't lift.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, all these different things that your unique attributes and as a man allow you to do for me.
Mm.
I love leaning into that and allowing you to do those things for me. It's part of our relationship and the polarity.
Yeah.
And you love doing those things, I'm sure, as well.
Right, yeah, because on one level it makes us feel useful, and it's a little act of service that, we can do for you. It's something that we can actually, it's one way I could feel useful for a few moments, and I like that. I like to be able to help you in whatever way. And it's like appropriate in the male-female polarity dynamic to do those types of things. Like holding a door open, because I know it's easier for me to hold a big heavy door open than it is for you. So it's my job, obviously.
I'm so curious about what drives this whole dynamic of I can't do anything for you, you can't do anything for me. Let's just keep it separate. I don't want your help. You don't want mine. I don't want to do anything for you. How does that ever end up in a healthy dynamic between the two sexes?
Yeah.
If we take that to the very end, where do we end up? Why are we pursuing that thread? I mean, we're not, but these ladies are.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. It's like, are you supposed to not have any give and take? Is that what we're going for? Or what do you feel like they're aiming at?
It feels to me like that programming of I'm an independent woman, I don't need any help, just pushes everything away. Mm-hmm. It pushes everything good away.
Right, exactly. That's the irony of it, is pushing everything good away. Like, everything the guy genuinely wants to help or support with is now off limits. It's like you can't do that. So what are you supposed to do? Are we supposed to act like women? Is that what would make these women happy? Like, do I have
That's a good question for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. Like, what would make you happy? Do I act like I'm castrated? Am I supposed to be a eunuch? What does an acceptable version of masculinity look like to neo-feminists and woke people? And we've heard a lot about toxic masculinity, which, according to this programming, is all forms of masculinity, which is insane. But that's part of the propaganda and, again, driving the wedge between us. Maybe a neo-feminist will hear this and give us an answer to what would be an acceptable form of male expression in the world.
They would have long turned this podcast off.
No doubt.
It's so interesting to me that the contradictions, we've spoken about that at length a lot, you and me, the contradictions in modern feminism and how it's just impossible to please someone like this. And that is the end goal. That's what a lot of these women do not even understand. Like you mentioned, the Frankfurt School, critical theory. That's what critical theory is dividing society into ever smaller minorities and pitting them against one another so that we're just constantly fighting all the time. Mm-hmm. And what do you see around you right now?
The feminists are a great example of that, like falling for it, massively falling for it. And then as they progress, like you're talking about dividing society into ever smaller segments, we've got to talk about the marginalised, not just black people. We know black lives matter, but now black amputee lives matter. No, black people in wheelchairs who are amputees. No, black people in wheelchairs who are amputees who also have like a vision impairment and also have a speech impediment. And you just keep dividing and making these new categories and new categories and new categories, and you can't actually cater to them. It's physically, logistically, mentally impossible to do that. But the point isn't that. The point is, like you said, to create just unending conflict within society. And that obviously serves the elite, because they just laugh all the way to the bank while they're screwing us and we're screwing ourselves, being distracted by each other while we're falling for these ideologies. We're not paying attention to the real culprits, the manipulators of society, the people who have the resources and the money to actually pull the strings and inject an ideology into society and bring it into the universities. Like, who has the resources and the power to do that? Let's ask more relevant questions and see the way that we're being divided here. It's divide and conquer 101.
And that's what I found inside the women's community. I mean, it wasn't just feminism that I was sort of bamboozled by inside of that community. It was the woke agenda. There was a lot of talk about racism, and I've got a draft of an article that I'm writing about racism, but I haven't quite finished it yet. But the crux of it is this, it's like, it's the same principle. It's the same thing. If you can rise up and see the entire ideology and the programming happening, if you can do the meta thing and see what's going on, you don't fall for it. But if you're stuck in the weeds, you're someone who gets caught up on these details. Like, there was a lady in the group who was half black, half white, and she looked white, right? So she's half black, half white, looks white, but identifies as black. So she calls herself black, she looks white. And so this lady took on the programming of guilt because she wasn't oppressed for being black, because people didn't realize she was black. They looked at her and thought she was white, but she was guilty because she had something that she labelled to be, quote, passing racism. She was passing, and I do that in quote marks. And so she wasn't oppressed. She was living her life perfectly fine. She just had to live as though she was being oppressed. And so she was going out there spraying all of this stuff, but she wasn't even herself, quote, being oppressed. Mm-hmm. And what was even more interesting is that she was half black and half white, but she chose to use the word black. Mm-hmm. And so the article that I'm kind of bringing together is all about that particular topic, because I find that extremely interesting. Mm-hmm. Where we choose to sit. Mm-hmm. Like you're choosing to be there.
Yeah, it's a choice.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it comes from this whole like one drop theory where you were supposed to be dirty if you had one drop of black in you, right? But you can't see this one drop nowadays. Like it's completely...
Yeah.
We all have one drop.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
Like I have more than one drop.
Yeah, huh? And you look very white to me.
Am I supposed to walk around with that? I could be doing the same
thing
as
she's doing. You
she's
could do exactly
doing.
the same thing. You could be walking around going, I can take on some guilt programming, and maybe I can go and find a way to be oppressed because I'm one fragment Barbadian or something.
Yeah,
you know, like
it's
where do you draw?
so interesting. What we choose.
Yeah.
These women are choosing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly right.
The men are saying one thing, and what their response is completely unrelated.
It's unrelated. It's not even relevant. That's what's so shocking about it. It's like, and this is why the discussion doesn't move forward, I think, is because in these threads, Sarah's thread, you see this sample of feminist thinking, the way that feminists operate. And it's clear as day, it's crystal clear that there is a severe listening deficit. If this is representative, and in my experience it is, feminists, neo-feminists, like today's feminists, which have nothing to do with the original feminists, they do not listen. They cannot listen. They're doing like what the landmark people call already always listening, and which is not listening effectively. And so how are we supposed to reach these women? How are we supposed to move things forward productively or constructively when it's patently obvious that they're not even listening to start with? So literally, as we were saying, we circle back to the problem. We can't win. We can't do anything right or say anything right because they're not even listening. Like they just took 7,000 compliments and turned them into patriarchal oppression, like alchemical magic. A dark magic, like against yourself. It reminds me of that meme, the guy riding his bike, the top half of the picture, and he's like, why does the same stuff keep happening to me? And then he shoves a stick in the spokes of the wheel and he falls off the bike. And he's like, that's feminism in a nutshell. Like, why do I feel so bad about life, and why am I so angry and resentful? And then they shove the plank of wood in the spokes and fall off the bike. It's like, why does this keep happening? Because of the ideology you've adopted, because it supports all of your blind spots and unconsciousness and enables you to keep bypassing that and just blame your feelings on men constantly. Your dissatisfaction is all the patriarchy's fault, except the problem is there is no patriarchy in the Western world.
So there's a comment here from Fruit of the Forest who says, keeping women down kills hope. I don't even know where we're keeping women down.
I'm not sure. 7,000 compliments keeping women down? I don't know.
That makes what is happening in the world lately make a lot of sense. We're entering the modern witch trial age. You might roll your eyes out of privilege, but your children will have to fight and bleed for every scrap of their birthrights.
I'm sorry, what? What does that mean?
How is 7,000 men appreciating women, keeping women down and killing hope? And how can that be equated to a witch trial?
Wow, yeah. I mean,
does she know about the witch trials? What actually happened in the witch trials?
Apparently not. I don't think she knows much of anything. That's a really weird comment. I don't even know what to say about it because it doesn't make any sense to me. I can't see how we're entering the modern witch trial age. And I also can't see how the comments from men are keeping women down or killing hope. Maybe the next one is more, this woman's complaining about the guy who was talking about having his head rubbed and having skin-to-skin contact and the intimacy that he appreciated that intimacy, but she's turned this into a very negative thing. Oh, he thinks he's praising women, but really he's a man-child who needs a mother figure followed by a vomiting face. This post has major ick vibes. Women are so much more than this. But the thing is, men aren't saying that women are not more than that. We're not saying that. That isn't the point of the post. Again, it's just not relevant. And it's someone who is going, I really value intimacy with my woman. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, and I don't need to be having sex with her
Right.
to feel connected and intimate with her.
Right.
According to their programming, shouldn't that be a great thing because every man's like a rapist?
Right, yeah. He doesn't want sex. Great, awesome, winning. Oh, but we're not winning because now he needs a mother figure. So it can't just be that you enjoy contact with your significant other. No, you've got, like, now it's a Freudian thing. Are you serious? If I want to snuggle up to you on the couch, it's not because I just enjoy being with you. It's because I need a mummy figure now. Like, this is so bizarre to me that we can take such innocence and twist it in such a way. It's a very unhealthy thing.
I'm so grateful for Carly who got it and said, didn't know I needed this post in my life, but here I am. She's the only person I've seen.
Ah, okay, yes.
Might have to friend Carly, I think.
She's onto it.
She gets it.
She's onto it. She gets it. Do we have to make it a race to the bottom?
Yes, because it's the oppression Olympics.
It is the oppression Olympics.
Higher point of the programming.
That's the point of the critical theory programming that these feminists have taken on. It's sobering to see that only one female. I mean, hopefully other women out there also were on a similar wavelength and got it, but maybe they just didn't comment because they were intimidated by all the unhinged feminists who would have been all over them. Sarah Wilson obviously didn't understand what she meant by her first comment. She goes, I think a lot of women need to see it. And then she comes back, Carly comes back and clarifies things for Sarah.
She's sort of saying what I was saying to you. And that's the reason why I had tears in my eyes when I was reading it, is because rarely, I feel, do we as women get appreciated for those qualities that are innate to us and that we give so much of. Because in today's world, we're supposed to be masculinized CEOs and all the things that we might be seen for, but all the other stuff can be unnoticed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we don't do it because we want to be revered for it, kind of thing. We just do that stuff because it's innate and it's part of our role as women. We are nurturing and caring and all those things that we mentioned before.
Yep.
Like, I'm a mother 24/7.
And you don't stop being a mother either, just because your kid gets older either. Like, ask any mother who's got an adult son.
Yeah. So Carly is saying what I said. She says, I'm usually seen for my robustness, organisation, CEO-ness and all of those features, but not appreciated for these qualities in this post, which for me personally are quite meaningful. And that's why it brought tears to my eyes, because I was like, men do see us for who we are as women. But what the other women are saying is that they don't want to be seen for those things.
Yeah.
But Carly and I are saying, thank goodness we're seen for those things.
Right. These are like the intangibles that they're not marketable. They're not out there in the workplace, in the economy, making money and all that's driving the economy. It's beyond that. Like, you can't put dollar values on that. And
that's one of the damaging things about feminism, is that we see everything as dollar signs.
yeah.
Like, just because a carer or whatever that other lady was saying is a, quote, low-paid job, that doesn't devalue being a mother or having caring qualities.
No.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
And that's something that I've often thought about, which have never, really spoken about because I'll just be slammed by all the feminists, is they pretend that everyone is supposed to be able to do everything. When women, it's a completely interchangeable, anyone can do anything. They refuse to acknowledge that some roles are better taken by men or women. That's just reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, when's the first female president going to happen? And when's this going to happen? In terms of men versus women, it's always a battle. Why do women want to be a president? To me, that's not a woman's role.
Right.
Maybe I have internalized misogyny. Or maybe I'm just being honest. Is it really a woman's place?
Well,
when you think about the differences between the sexes? not coming from a place of oppression and like women shouldn't be at the top or any of that stuff. Just thinking about like the qualities. I think that it's better suited to like soldiers should be men because they're stronger and men have more of the capacity to be able to focus on one thing and like lead a world kind of thing. Like there's a reason why it's always been men.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we hate women.
No, I mean, the whole feminist thing is just ludicrous. And 34 people like that, actually.
Okay.
Which is a good sign.
I haven't commented on that post, but clearly I have thoughts about it. The reason I haven't commented is because I don't do that now. I feel like I've moved past those days. I don't want to put my energy into that because I know I can't win against those women. There's nothing I can say to those women. They have to come to their own conclusion. Yeah, there's nothing you can say to one of those women to change their mind. They themselves may at some point realise their programming. Probably won't, but some people do.
Yeah, some do.
Like Lauren, for instance.
Yeah, and you were probably the main reason for that too. Give you a bit of credit there for planting the seed with Lauren.
Once you awaken to that, it's a beautiful thing. But while you're in it, there's nothing that can be said to you.
No.
Thankfully, I have never been in that. I never had that programming. I never took that on.
Yeah.
I saw it from the outside rather than the inside. I'm very grateful for that. And I dove into researching it because I could see this isn't right. What's wrong with these people? Why can't they rationalize anything? Why can't they have a conversation? Why can't they listen? Like you said, there's a deficit there.
Yeah, they're not listening.
So it's interesting. I feel like I do need to keep talking about this because I kind of haven't come across any of this type of programming for a long time. And I thought it was sort of getting better, maybe. But perhaps I just haven't been in the circles where it's been happening and it needs to be spoken about.
It does. It's like all of the work stuff. You know, it needs sane, healthy, rational people to challenge it. And it helps people who are kind of like on the fence or maybe not completely programmed to sort of start seeing through it and detaching from it and moving on. And just because you and I both know how bad the extreme edges of the woke movement actually are, like how depraved they are, and that's why it needs to be challenged as well. Like the more people just say, no, this is not okay, the better off everybody ultimately is, especially the kids.
Yeah.
Who are always the most vulnerable target of this kind of nonsense, and the woke agenda is specifically designed to target them. All that trans stuff and the pedo stuff.
I was just going to say the only place that type of programming can end up is at the bottom.
Yeah.
With separation and division. It never ends up in a place of connection and understanding because it's designed to not end up there.
It's not designed to solve problems, it's designed to create problems. And I would ask why, knowing that you have a choice to adopt that lens on reality, to adopt that belief system or to not adopt it, you can choose to take on neo-feminist ideology and play the role of victim indefinitely and have all these fancy words that have been invented to support your new identity as a victim and this fancy rhetoric which ultimately says very little and means very little. But you can take that on and choose to play the role of victim or not. Like that's kind of like the contradiction in neo-feminism is they think that they're trying to empower themselves and they're using their ideology as the vehicle to do that. But it's a vehicle of disempowerment. That's its inherent nature. It's inherently designed to support your disempowerment and the stagnation there. You're not supposed to move out of it. As long as you stick with that feminist ideology, you will stay a victim until you finally set yourself free. Or you could choose not to in the first place and be an individual, not part of the crowd. Take responsibility for your life, your feelings and your thoughts, which you create. Nobody creates them for you. You know, patriarchy isn't beaming thoughts and feelings into your head. That's you. That's the way you look at the world and respond to the world. That's on you. That's your creation. But you can play the victim, and neo-feminism will support you in that for as long as you want to feel shit about your life and about yourself. Or you can take the role of somebody who is a self-responsible, introspective, psychologically healthy human, like the one I'm sitting opposite, Aimee, and do something more useful and more empowering. Because the vehicle of feminism is designed to be inherently disempowering in its current form. The original first wave, there was something useful happening there, but there was something honest and genuine and useful about it. And men supported that. It succeeded because men supported it with the women. But what we've got now, the mutation of fourth wave feminism, tying into the woke agenda. I mean, it's nothing like what it started out as, and it's completely unhelpful.
When you're able to see that the programming is able to embed itself because of your wounding and focus on healing those wounds,
Exactly.
that's the only way out of that type of programming.
Yeah.
The self-reflection, the understanding. Because if you, for instance, looking at the women that were in that group with me, the ones who were unhinged, I've previously wrote a poem about this and I've shared it on the podcast. It was called I Fucked, the poem that I wrote, because there was a woman in there who had a guy. She was walking down the street one day and a guy smiled at her and like catcalled her and sort of like gave her a bit of a hey, how you doing? And the way that she reacted to that was like she'd been raped. Like it was the most extreme reaction. It was a misguided attempt at communication from the guy. Like, I'm not saying that that's the best form of or communication, but the reaction to it was extreme. We need to understand that all of that comes from our wounding, and that our perception of that, like my perception of that, like if I was walking down the street and a guy did that, I'd just probably smile and keep going. Like, and I'd just continue with my day. But a radical feminist...
Now she's got to write a blog about how she was oppressed and...
Totally.
I fucked.
You can't even look at her. If you look at her, you're an evil man. Like, that's the only place that this ends up. It's so destructive.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
We could keep going on and on.
We could keep going, but
we should wrap it up.
let's wrap it up. What are your final thoughts, Ames? How do you want to wrap it up?
I'd like to thank Tony Baker for creating that conversation in the first place, who did it out of pure, innocent desire, from what I can see, from my perception, to share a thread about what's awesome about women. Like, that's it.
That was it?
That's it.
That's all it was.
And I appreciate that.
It was great. And it was great to read the comments and see all the different ways, all the little things men value about women.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, I'd encourage you to ask your significant other ask him that question. Outside of anything sexual or beauty related, what's your favourite thing about women?
I bet he doesn't say any of the stuff that these feminists wanted the men to be
I
saying.
bet he will say, I love your leadership.
Your strong masculine leadership, yes.
Your masculine leadership and your problem-solving abilities.
Yeah, that's so absurd.
It is so absurd when you say it, right?
Yeah, when you say it out loud.
Why would a man appreciate that? Anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Brennan. Brennan is my husband, and he's also a writer. I don't know how to describe you.
The eternal problem.
He has a brilliant mind. He's able to bring together different topics and insights and offer his own perspective on them, which is one of his most appreciated qualities, not only by me, but by the world. And I think we'll do this quite often. I'll bring you on to talk about topics, because I do appreciate the masculine and feminine perspectives on topics, even though obviously those two things are the same thing.
We're all the same, we're all equal, we cannot be different at all. Men can have babies too. I'm pregnant right now, I'm having one tomorrow.
And so with that, you should probably go back to the kitchen and make me some lunch.
Hey, put on my little apron.
If you enjoyed this, please drop a comment, share this with someone who either will appreciate this or who may be triggered by this. Thanks for listening, thanks for being open, and I look forward to sharing more with you very soon. Thanks for joining me, B.
It's been a pleasure, thanks.
If you enjoyed this episode and like reading as much as you do listening, I would love to welcome you as another subscriber to my newsletter. Head on over to mymamasummer.com to subscribe and let me know what you loved most about this episode. I love hearing your feedback. It's my favourite part of sharing what's on my heart. I'll see you over there. Have a beautiful day.